Alrighty, so now that you've spent some time mapping out that template, doing those 2 steps of analysis, now it's time to plan the renovation. What are you going to do to this thing, right? In this assignment, you're going to create a roadmap. So this is, in this case, we're going to use a markdown file again we're going to create this to do. This is going to be the markdown syntax that you will use. You will create 15 different specific tasks. But before we look at this, let's just go ahead and set this up. Now, for me, I have open my base folder. So I always like to, when I'm working on my project 0 or a specific, let me make sure I'm in the right one. I've done this before where I didn't open the right one, pub P0. There we go. Okay. So in this case, there I have this and I'll roll this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is click into this area. I'm not going to create a folder. I'm going to create a new file. Now this one is to do lowercase.md. Remember, the only one we typically do as a larger uppercase is the README. Okay. So I'm going to say my project 0 to do list. You can make this whatever you want. Now the way I showed it in there is you do 1 and then you do brackets. You do task, okay? Whatever your task is, okay? So again, you only have to do 1 commit here. You're just going to go through and list. But I'm going to go ahead and start my live server just to kind of take a look. So like there's several things I know I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to change this background photo. I'm going to need to change this profile. This looks like just a crop version of that. I'm going to need to change the text here, right? So the more specific I am about what I need to do, the better this roadmap will serve me, right? The other thing I know I'm going to need to do is that right now my menu is using a nav, okay? Sorry, an anchor link. And I will have talked about anchor links already in attendance, right? So I know that I'm going to need individual pages here instead of what is here now. I would kind of bruise through here and say, okay, are any of these, well, and then I have this nested idea that I will probably get rid of, most likely, right? Because so I'll have to come up with my menu, right? So these are the things as I'm looking through here. Of course, I'll end up creating all those pages. So to help you kind of get organized, one of the things you could think about is some items will fall into the architecture side, like just how the site is actually set up. Right now, I know when I look at this, there's an index page here. Okay, that's actually what's coming up by default. I should have talked about this by now, but in case I didn't, whenever you pull up a browser, or even on GitHub, whenever the root base folder is, it will look for the index file and then present that, if no other file that might be like it, like a index.php. And if you don't know that extension, that's okay. Okay. So architecture, that's what that kind of is, right? So I'm going to need to create a page. Now, for the next item, you actually plan out those pages. So you don't actually have to here, but what are you going to do with that? And then content replacement. So I definitely, in this case, will replace all that content, right? So I might want to go in and do inspect. And I would say, okay, in here, right? Oh, H2. So inside the container ASO and that animate, I will need to replace the name and also how this is, how this is coming out, like how it's animating, because that's what the AOS is for in my template. Okay. So again, go through and list all of these. Okay. So again, minimum of 15, you're going to need to do 15 changes. You can talk about bootstrap colors, buttons, or components, right? That navigation definitely is one you're going to fix, you will modify. And then the cleanup. So, like for sure, for me, the cleanup would be that it has all on the index page, it has all of these. And I can actually, now that I'm looking at it, I can see that it's also moving through my menu. So that's something I'm also going to want to think about is how do I make that once I get individual pages, how is that done? Okay. So that'll be something I do, but all this content can go away. Okay. All right. So so once you do that, push to GitHub. Okay. So you're going to push to GitHub, and then in your posts, you will end up sharing your GitHub, your CIT, GitHub IO, your public repo, P0, and to-do.md, again, lowercase, no spaces. So in your post, I want you to kind of think about this as like, what's the biggest change you have to make this template to work into your 12-page topic, right? So for me, probably the biggest change that I'm going to have to make, besides the navigation's probably the navigation, in this case, the menu, because right now that I'm going to have to create pages. But for you, you're going to have to think about this, right? And then looking at this list of 15 items, which one feels the most technically scary, right, to implement, right? So what kind of feels like, oh man, that's going to be a challenge. I'm not sure how that works. Okay. So that's what you do. And then, right, when you engage with each other, right, you see a list on their list that you also need to do or offer a tip of or good luck on their most challenging item, right? So you could, in your list, you could actually put like most challenging. Okay. So, but you'll do it in your post as well. Okay, have fun with this. It is a good plan. It is always good to do a little bit of planning and think ahead. Now, this doesn't mean this is absolutely what you have to do. This is just you giving a moment to say, here's what I think I will do as far as my roadmap for my site. All right, talk to you later.